Chapter 7. Taking it in turns to look through the porthole, they let out a collective gasp as a lady with metallic skin in a shiny gold and silver spacesuit floated in the doorway, tethered by a long, shimmering rope to a gold and silver space rocket stationed only a short distance away. "Do you think we should let her in?" asked Cassandra. "She doesn't seem too dangerous," answered Katy. "Zia?" "I think we need to find out what she wants, okay?" They all nodded and then used their combined strength to pull a lever that said "unlock" in big capital letters. The door cracked open. They all held their breath, with no clue as to what was about to happen. Then, "You girls aren't easy to catch," said the spacewoman, smiling. "I've been trying to reach you ever since you entered our galaxy. No one has reached the Wishing Star constellation before. I'm impressed you're giving it a go." Katy blinked a few times to make certain she wasn't seeing things. "But who are you? And why have you been following us?" "Can I come in?" the woman asked politely. "As much as I enjoy floating around in space, it would be easier to talk inside." Katy looked at her friends, who were nodding their heads up and down enthusiastically, so she held out her hand and helped the woman into their ship. When she'd unhooked the rope from her spacesuit and the door was sealed, they removed their helmets and the stranger shook out her long, shimmering gold and silver hair. "Your hair! I've never seen anything like it before," cried Katy, wanting to reach out and touch it. "Thank you," she said, smiling. "I'm Starlet, captain of the Wishing Star Galaxy. We don't get many visitors here. I wondered if you could tell me why you've come." Zia moved forward, speaking so quickly she forgot to breathe. "We were on a playdate and thought it could be fun to visit the Wishing Star, and we built a spaceship, but we didn't know it would actually work, but it did, and now we're almost there, and when we arrive, we'd all like to make a wish and see if it comes true." She took a long breath, then swung back towards her friends, catching the spacewoman with the end of her plait as she did so. Sorry," she said, lowering her head. "No problemo," the woman waved theatrically. Katy couldn't help but think there was something familiar about Starlet. "So have you all decided what you'd like to wish for?" Starlet then asked. "We have," they answered in unison, including Thunder, who was now rubbing his soft body against the spacewoman's ankles and winking up at her with his big blue eye. She crouched down and stroked him softly along his back. "And may I ask what those wishes are?" Taking it in turns, they told her exactly what they'd been discussing only moments earlier. Zia settled on roller skates because her older sisters already had them and she didn't want to miss out on the fun. Starlet said with a sigh, "Just as I'd suspected. And that's why I'm here, because before you reach the Wishing Star, I want to show you something important. Please, follow me." Starlet floated over towards the command module, where she sat at Zia's seat and took a little jar out of her pocket. "This," she said, "is stardust." She opened the tiny lid and took a handful of glittery powder in her hands. "When I sprinkle it on this screen, it is going to show you a new way of looking at your planet. Then you can tell me if you still feel the same about your wishes. Ready?" The four friends nodded, and with a sweep of her hand, a glittery cloud filled the air and rained down on the monitor in front of them. The screen burst into life. "That's Earth!" cried Cassandra, who had been silent up until now. "Yes, but watch closely," said Starlet, as the image on the screen got bigger and bigger as the picture zoomed in closer. The familiar sight of Earth gradually transformed until they could see all the incredible places they'd been learning about that term at school. Rainforests, jungles, deserts, icebergs, mountains, islands, beaches, rivers, oceans, all the places they planned to have adventures to one day. "Why are you showing us this?" asked Katy. "Keep watching," said Starlet, with a smile as the film zoomed in even closer. Now it showed them the even more familiar sight of roads and cars and lorries and buses and houses and shops and schools and playgrounds and parks. "Hey, that's our school!" shouted Zia. "And my house," cried Katy. Then the film zoomed in closer still. Only what it showed now wasn't so comforting. They saw a pile of litter stacked up behind a wall by their school, crisp packets and chocolate wrappers strewn across their local park, drinks cartons in gutters, bits of paper and cardboard packaging weaving in and out of the wheels of parked cars. "I don't like the look of that," Zia said quietly. "Nor me," whispered Cassandra. The screen changed one last time, making Katy feel sick to her stomach. Images flashed onto the screen for a few seconds each time, showing a river choking on plastic, forests being chopped down, ice caps melting, and dirty-looking smoke pumping out of cars and factories. Katy loved her planet and didn't like what she was seeing either. She also didn't understand why the spacewoman wanted to show it to them. Then, at last, the screen went blank. Chapter 8. "So what do you think?" Starlet broke the silence. "That this doesn't have anything to do with cats?" said Thunder dismissively. The girls lowered their heads. Katy felt sad and angry and knew her best friends must feel the same. But the horrible things they were shown didn't have anything to do with them either, did they? "I understand what Thunder's saying, because I don't see what any of this has to do with us either, or our wishes." The spacewoman crouched down and pulled Thunder into her arms. "Every creature," she said, scratching the cat behind his ear, "every plant, rock, and drop of water on Earth is precious and needs protection. You can't stop every sad thing from happening, but you can put your wishes to good use today." "But what about my roller skates?" asked Zia sulkily. "And my new bike?" asked Cassandra. The woman held up her hand. "Remember that only one wish can be granted for each of you, so you need to choose carefully. You could wish for something important to you, or you could wish for something important to the world. That's the power of the wishing star, because you really do have the power to change the world, you know." Katy felt goosebumps creeping over her body. She finally understood what Starlet was trying to say and felt an enormous urge to end their adventure the right way. "I think wishing for a better world is more important than horse riding," she said slowly, so everyone could hear. "Don't you see? Why wish for roller skates or a new bike when there are bigger things to wish for?" Cassandra took a deep breath. "I think I agree with Katy," she announced quietly. But Zia was fiddling awkwardly with the end of her plait. "I suppose you're right, even though I really, really want a pair of roller skates." Then her dark almond eyes seemed to grow even bigger in size as she looked past them towards the window. "Hey, look out there!" she shouted. Katy turned and saw that the light around the window was turning gold. "We've been so busy talking," Zia continued, moving to look outside, "that we didn't realise we're almost at the wishing star. Oh, wow! Come and see! It's amazing! No, it's better than amazing. It's out of this world." Katy looked at Starlet, who nodded as if to give permission for Katy to follow her friends. She floated over to join them and, when she looked outside, was immediately blinded by the most spectacular golden light. "I can't believe it," said Cassandra, grabbing Katy's hands in her own and squeezing them tight. "I can't believe we actually made it." Katy had always wondered what starlight looked like up close, and now she knew. It was shinier and brighter and sparklier and more golden than any light you could ever picture in your mind. "Is that really the wishing star?" Katy asked. "Yes, and it's the most powerful star in our galaxy," Starlet answered. Katy felt extraordinarily happy that her dad had been telling her the truth. All the time she stared at the star on her bedroom ceiling and imagined what it would be like to see the wishing star for real. And now she was here. For centuries, humans have tried to find their way to this star, but until now no one has made it, and no wishes have ever been granted. but I've been watching you working together and caring for each other, and because of your teamwork and the fact that you've thought about each other rather than just yourselves, you've been successful in your mission. And that gives me confidence that you'll also think about others when you make your wishes today. So, are you ready? Are you ready to tell me what you wish for? Katy beckoned to Cassandra, Zia and Thunder to cluster together. Then she bent her head in closer, whispering quietly as she told them her plan. When they'd each nodded their head in agreement, they turned back to face Starlet. "We are," they all said. "Okay then, tell me your wishes." Chapter 9. The girls held hands tightly and looked Starlet square in the eyes. "I wish for more things to be recycled." As soon as Katy said it, the wishing star flashed and she felt herself filling with warmth. It started at her feet and then moved upwards towards her head, radiating outwards and soaking her body in happiness. She then looked at Thunder and her friends, encouraging them to join in. "I wish for fewer trees to be chopped down," said Cassandra, who must have experienced the same feelings as Katy, because she was beaming in a way that Katy had never seen and dancing round and round in a circle, just as the wishing star flashed again and began to shine even more brightly. "And I wish for people to stop wasting so much water," said Zia, smiling and hugging her body tight to capture the feeling of goodness their wishes brought. Once more the star's brightness increased. Starlet nodded in approval. "But that's only 3 wishes. How about you, Thunder? What do you wish for?" Thunder frowned. "Come on, I know you're a cat, but right now you have the power to change the world," she urged. "Okay, first though, are mice endangered?" Thunder grinned mischievously. "No," they all said. "In that case, I wish to protect endangered animals," he said, and after another flash of light, he shook out his fur before launching himself into Katy's arms. Everyone laughed. "What happens now?" asked Katy. "To our wishes, I mean. How do we know if they're going to come true?" "You'll know," said Starlet, "because you'll feel it. That feeling you all experienced just now, that's the feeling you'll get whenever your wish is being granted somewhere in the world. And remember, if you all pick up just 1 piece of litter every day or turn off your taps when you're brushing your teeth, the world you live in will be a cleaner and happier place. Small acts of thoughtfulness can make the biggest difference. It's that simple." Starlet then pulled 4 tiny jars out of her pocket. "I also want to give you these gifts to say thank you for wishing so wisely. A jar of stardust for each of you to remind you what the wishing star has taught you. Keep them safe, and when you go on your next adventures, you won't forget what you've learned today." "Thank you," they said. "Now, who wants to go home?" Once again, they formed a circle in the air, legs splayed out weightlessly behind them in a star. "Repeat after me. I wish to go home," said Starlet. "I wish to go home," they echoed. Katy pictured her bedroom at home, the mess of recycling scattered across her carpet, the junk model space rocket by the window, the glow-in-the-dark stars zigzagging across her ceiling. At once she started to feel funny again, that bubbly, fizzy feeling she'd felt in her room when their pretend adventure had first come to life. Bolts of electricity were shooting all around her body until gradually she felt it return to normal. Then she opened her eyes. "Did that really just happen?" asked Zia, blinking as if she didn't believe what she was seeing. I think it did," replied Cassandra, also looking confused when she saw she was back in her school uniform, no spacesuit in sight. Thunder was darting in and out of their legs, meowing and acting far more like his usual cat-like self. Katy checked her pocket and found something hard and small at the bottom. "The jar!" she squealed. Her friends plunged their hands into their pockets as well. That's when Katy realised what their adventure to the wishing star had been all about. It had been a test to see if they could put the world before themselves. And it looked like they'd passed, because inside Katy's jar was a tiny gold bracelet with a tiny charm in the shape of a star. Look, it's beautiful, she cried, taking it from the jar and slipping it onto her wrist. I've got one too, shrieked Zia. And me, cried Cassandra. We need to wear these to remind ourselves. Katy smiled. Then she grabbed her friend's wrists and they held their bracelets together in a silent pledge. Hold on a minute, she said, looking more closely at her wrist. I think my bracelet has 2 stars on it. At that moment, Thunder started nudging her ankles. Suddenly it made sense. Cassie, can you hold this? Katy asked, slipping the 2nd star from her own bracelet before handing it to Cassandra. Then she bent down and pulled Thunder into her arms. Thunder, I know you can't talk now, but I think Starlet wanted you to have this, she said, fastening the star onto his collar. It looks like you're part of the Playdate Adventure Club too. Thunder grinned a Cheshire cat grin, then pounced from Katy's arms and started parading around the room, tail high in the air, the star glinting proudly from his collar. The girls all clapped and cheered until they were interrupted by Katy's dad, calling them from the kitchen. Dinner's ready! Coming, Katy called back, frowning again at her friends. He said dinner was in half an hour. Surely we've been gone longer than that. Zia and Cassandra both shrugged their shoulders. Well, I suppose we'd better go and eat. Come on, who's hungry? But before they turned to go, Thunder dropped the same foil cup he'd pulled from the recycling earlier by their feet and stared up at them like an expectant puppy. Thunder, we're not building another spaceship, silly, Katy said, picking it up from the carpet. Then it dawned on her what Thunder meant. To saving the world, one small step at a time, she said, placing the cup slowly and deliberately back inside the recycling box. Then she smiled happily at her friends. Cassandra followed, also picking up a piece of rubbish from the floor and popping it in the box. And to the Playdate Adventure Club, she said. And to our next adventure, said Zia, scooping up the remaining bits of junk and tossing them on top. I already have an idea where we could go, but we're going to need warmer coats.